Hello YouTube, Wes here checking in with a brand new video for you. Finally, I'm getting around to doing the 2023 vinyl tag, the great vinyl community thing that we all come together every year. At the beginning of the year, everybody answers these about 20 questions, and it's a fun thing to do. It's a great way to start a new channel if you want to start talking about vinyl collecting, music collecting yourself. It's a great way to get started. Everything's laid out for you. You just pull the records to talk about them and show them, and get yourself in a reasonably quiet space and with good lighting, and set up a camera or smartphone or whatever it may be and record yourself talking about the 20 questions. So yeah, it's never too late to do this. I've done it later in the year myself, and it's getting near the end of January already, but yeah, go ahead and do it if you haven't done it already. Okay, so here we go. Vinyl Tag 2023. Question number 1 starts off with, what was your favorite new release for 2022? And I did do a whole video here on the channel about my favorite releases of 2022. So if you missed that, you want to check that out. It's a couple videos back. Do recommend that. But my favorite new release for 2022 was Tears for Fears with their album The Tipping Point. Yeah, killer album from them. I will say I just within the last couple of days listened to the new Wise Blood album. That was one that I missed in 2022, missed listening to, and I really love that new Wise Blood album. I actually placed an order for the loser edition, the colored vinyl edition of that, so that's going to be coming in the next week or so. And yeah, that album is pretty incredible. That definitely would have been somewhere on my list anyway, of top, probably in my top 10 somewhere, if not my favorite album of the year, because right now I'm really digging that new Wise Blood album. So definitely check that one out as well. Question number 2, album by the artist you saw live last. And this is a difficult one for me. I don't remember the last artist I saw live that I actually have vinyl from. I don't do live concerts really, hardly at all. I do go to the Florida Folk Festival every year and see a lot of artists there, but not many of those, if any, have vinyl typically, and I don't have vinyl from them to show you. So I thought I would not answer that question, but come up with three other questions, and that was the first artist you saw live, a live concert you wished you'd gone to in 2022, and your most desired artist to see in the future live. So the first one of that, the very first concert I ever remember going to as a kid was Vanilla Ice. Yeah, I went and saw Vanilla Ice, and then a couple weeks later MC Hammer played, so it was definitely sort of that time, but yeah, definitely the first concert I ever remember going to that was sort of something I wanted to go to and not just going along with my parents or something like that, was Vanilla Ice. All right, and then part 2 of that question that I made up is a concert you missed. And yeah, I had an opportunity to see Mavis Staples live earlier last year. I kind of regret not going to it. For the past 2 or 3 years now, they've had, there's a music festival in my town. And it's kind of a weird thing where you can pay for a VIP sort of experience where you sit closer, but general admission is free kind of thing. I have not been to it. I really need to force myself to go this year and just experience it, because it is, as I said, it is free. I could have gone to see Mavis Staples. It was a Sunday night concert. That was another thing. I got to go to work early on Monday morning. I don't want to be out late on a Sunday night, but yeah, I kind of regret not going to see Mavis Staples. I could have seen her for free, but I didn't, so that's a regret of a concert for me for 2022. I will have to rectify that in 2023. And the last part of this question that I made up is an artist you really want to see live, and that is Nils Fromm. I believe he played in Atlanta somewhere around October. It's just so difficult for me to make something like that happen because, you know, you got gas, you got hotels, you got the tickets themselves. It's just such a huge expense to go see a live concert that it's not really, I don't really feel it's worth what it costs to do. I don't have a lot of money, and it's just difficult for me to, you know, spend $600 to go see, you know, to go to a concert, because, you know, by the time you pay for a hotel and gas and the tickets and everything, that's probably what it's going to be. So yeah, but I would really love to see Nils Fromm live. If he comes to like Orlando or Tampa or something, that would be a little bit easier to do. Maybe I could do that as a non-overnight kind of trip. But I really would love to see Nils Fromm. Okay. On to question number 3. Their first album was their best. I struggled with this one for quite a while. What I decided to show is Arrested Development with their first album, 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days in the life of. Yeah, first album, definitely their best. The group kind of broke up and got back together, and broke up and got back together, and changed the lineup and everything, but this is definitely still the best from Arrested Development. Question number 4 was the hat trick question, an album you own on 3 different formats. Basically, what I went with was the Moody Blues Days of Future Past. So we have Days of Future Past on cassette, Days of Future Past on CD, and finally, Days of Future Past on vinyl. So here we go. The trifecta. There's not too many albums I have this sort of thing of. I have very few cassettes. Another one I could do is the Above the Rim soundtrack, which is kind of odd to say, but yeah, I have that on all 3 formats. You have to have the cassette of that to get all the tracks, or all of the tracks that were released anyway. The cassette has the most tracks out of any format, if you are a fan of the Above the Rim movie. Okay, question number 5, an album that starts and ends with the same letter. And this was another one that was difficult for me. I decided to employ the random item on Discogs, since I have a decent percentage of my collection imported into Discogs, or loaded into Discogs now, and I just decided to hit the random button until I found one that fit, and surprisingly it took a while, but I found one, and it happened to land on, not only is the album starting in with the same letter, but the artist or the group starts and ends with the same letter, and it's all the same letter as well, which is kind of fun. So we have Return to Forever with Romantic Warrior. So 4 R's there. So that was my answer for that question. Okay, question number 6. Artist or album from the same year you were born. I decided to choose an artist that was born the same year I was, and I'll show you an album that was born the same year I was in a little bit here. It's part of another question, but Fiona Apple and I were both born in 1977, so I went with Fiona Apple, born in 1977, and she's actually a little bit younger than me. I was born at the beginning of 1977, and she was born near the end of 1977. So that is my answer for that question. Question number 7, most listened to album of 2022. I'm not really sure. I don't spend a lot of time with any one album ever. I'm always trying to listen to new things, and I spend a lot of time listening to new things. But I did listen to Orville Peck's new album, Bronco, quite a lot last year. Just trying to figure it out and sort of decide what I thought of it, because it's a long album. It's different than what he's done in the past. But really good, really solid album. And so Orville Peck, Bronco, I spent quite a bit of time listening to this one. Spun it a lot at dinner time, and it's an enjoyable enjoyable one to listen to, and I spent a lot of time with it. All right, and question number 8, most listened to artist of 2022. And again, there wasn't any one artist that sort of stood out to me that, said, yeah, I kind of listen to that person a lot. But I did listen to quite a bit of Miley Cyrus in 2022. She put out a live album. Doesn't have a physical release, but I did listen to that quite a bit. And I'm always, picking up and playing some Miley stuff. I picked up a couple of Miley Cyrus reissues earlier this year. And so, yeah, just listen to Miley Cyrus a lot. So whether it's streaming or vinyl, it's just fun music. Question number 9, an Australian band or artist. And I decided to show again the Australian artist Hatchie. And this is her debut album, Giving the World Away, released in 2022, and one of my favorites of 2022. So yeah, she's Australian, does sort of a dream pop kind of thing, and I really enjoy listening to her. So Hatchie for an Australian artist. Okay, next up, a surprising purchase of 2022, and I went with Big Star's #1 record, this promo copy that I found in the $2 bin. And yeah, this was definitely a surprising purchase for me because this record is well loved, it's highly collectible, and it's not necessarily in my wheelhouse, even though I do enjoy it. It's not something that I'm going to spend a lot of money seeking out or buying. But when I find something for $2, yeah, I'm gonna buy it just to be able to have it and own it and experience it on vinyl. So yeah, that was a surprise to me, surprise find, and surprise because I never thought I would really own a physical copy of this, just because it, as I said, it's expensive. It's not in my normal wheelhouse, but it was definitely a surprise, and I'm glad I was able to pick it up and experience it on vinyl. All right, next up, an artist you are complete on, and I decided to go with the Alan Parsons Project, and so we have Tales of Mystery and Imagination, Edgar Allan Poe. Not sure these are in the correct order, but there's I, Robot, and that one is the album that I would have went with, born in the same year as I was born, 1977. I, Robot's from 1977. So we have that. There's Alan Parsons Project Pyramid, and there's Alan Parsons Project Eve. And there is Turn of a Friendly Card. Getting a little crazy there, but yeah, Turn of a Friendly Card. There is Eye in the Sky, one of the best ones. Monia Avenue. You got Vulture Culture. There's Stereotomy in the PVC sleeve. More used to seeing it like this. And then the one that's difficult to find, Alan Parsons Project Gaudi. Yeah, that one's the most difficult to find. So that's my pretty much complete collection of Alan Parsons Project. I have the later stuff from the 90s and on CD. I didn't pull that stuff out, but I do have a pretty complete collection of Alan Parsons Project as far as studio stuff goes. Question number 12, a great 3-album run. This one was difficult to me because I don't think anybody has ever had a great 3-album run, but I did find an artist that has a pretty solid 3-album run, and that is David Bowie's Berlin Trilogy. So we have Low, Heroes, and Lodger. So that's pretty solid 3-album run. Question number 13, a soundtrack from the 1980s, and I couldn't just pull one. As I said, I was born in 1977, so I was a tween and an early teen in the 80s, and grew up in the 80s, and that was sort of the golden age for kids movies, was the 1980s. So I have a lot of 80s soundtracks in my collection, so I pulled a whole bunch to show just for fun. So let's go ahead and show these real quick. We got the Tron soundtrack by Wendy Carlos. Top Gun soundtrack. Stand By Me. Great soundtrack. Got Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Miami Vice soundtrack. There's a fun one. Iron Eagle soundtrack. There's Firestarter. Tangerine Dream soundtrack. Here's one of my favorite movies of all time. Empire of the Sun. Little young Christian Bale and Steven Spielberg directing. Got the Dune soundtrack. The Fat Boys and the Disorderlies. It's a fun one. The Dirty Dancing soundtrack. Well loved. The soundtrack to The Color of Money, a favorite of mine. I do love a lot of the music on there. Very early, 1980 is the year on this one. The Blue Lagoon. And Back to the Future. Couldn't miss showing this one. So there's a whole bunch of 1980s soundtracks from the golden age of my youth, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I do love those movies, and I do love collecting soundtracks. Question number 14. We lost them in 2022, and yeah, we lost far too many people in 2022. 2023 hasn't been great so far either. Unfortunately, we're just getting to that period where a lot of the rock and roll artists are starting to pass on, and it's unfortunate. But one of the most surprising losses for me was Mimi from Low. I wanted to listen to this year, this Low Christmas album, one of my favorite modern Christmas albums, and I just wasn't able to bring myself to do it. But hopefully next year I'll be able to spin this. But an amazing, incredibly somber Christmas album, beautiful, lush Christmas album, and I wouldn't be able to handle it knowing that she had just recently passed. And this is their album from 2021, I believe, is when this was released. Hey What was the title of this one? Yeah. So, and I also wanted to mention Patrick Haggerty of Lavender Country, queer 70s country artist. I just wanted to mention that we lost him in 2022. Question number 15, a disappointing purchase. So I decided to go with Dashboard Confessionals, All the Truth I Can Tell. I just, as I mentioned when I showed this in my finds videos, I watched a What's in My Bag video from them. Liked what they picked, and it was the same day the album came out, and I just happened to be in Walmart that evening, and the album was there, and I just bought it, sort of blind bought it just based on, I kind of vibe with what they picked in Amoeba there, and I wanted to hear their music. And I don't hate this, but I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, so for that, it's a bit disappointing for me. Question number 16, a non-vinyl purchase. I wasn't sure what to show until I remembered this purchase that I made a couple months ago. I haven't really shown it here on the channel. I picked up Led Zeppelin's Houses of the Holy on 8-track, as well as King Crimson's Lark's Tongue in Aspic on 8-track. So there's a story that goes along with these. I found these at the local thrift store called the Repurpose Project, and they were in a huge pile of 8-tracks, and there were a lot of very interesting non-traditional 8-track kind of titles there, and there was a note on top, and I took a picture of the note, so I'll read you the note on the history of where these 8-tracks came from, as well as the others that were there. So it says, most of these 8-tracks recorded on Maxell are high quality recordings made at first playing from new vinyl LPs. So there were a lot of blank 8-tracks that had been recorded on, but there were several there were several pre-recorded ones there as well. That's where those came in. I didn't buy any of the pre-recorded ones. They were recorded by jazz pianist Rick Burgess in the early 1970s and were the source of music in a jazzy hippie bar / restaurant called the Del Rio Bar in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So if anybody's in Ann Arbor, knows of the Del Rio Bar, let me know. They were played through a high-quality stereo through 6-foot-tall Klipschorn speakers. They were the best non-live music in town. By the late 1970s, these tapes were replaced by cassette tapes, and I inherited them. I was a waiter at the communally run business for 9 years. The only problem with these 40-year-old plus tapes is in their construction, one long piece of tape connected by a piece of metal that tells the machine to switch tracks. When the adhesive that glues the ends and foil together dries out, the ends can come apart. Then the case must be opened and the ends taped back together with the foil, still able to do its job. But the music is fine. So yeah, kind of a cool, they were in a bar in Ann Arbor, Michigan, kind of a hippie kind of bar, and yeah, very, very non-traditional. There was a lot of jazz in there. But yeah, I picked up these two just to keep as a memento. And yeah, so that was a non-vinyl purchase. Question number 17. You found a grail. I pulled two here. The first one here is this Tonto's Expanding Headband album. This was on my Discogs wish list, and I just happened to stumble across it in the wild at the Friends of the Library sale. So that's always awesome when you have something that you want so much it's on your wish list, but you just sort of stumble across it in the wild. And the other thing I pulled was Bobby Gentry's Delta Suite. Another one was on my Discogs wish list, and just happened to stumble across it at the same time I found the Big Star #1 record. And yeah, this was definitely a must-have for me, and I was glad to find it in the wild. Question number 18. A space-themed album cover or theme, whatever it may be. Space-themed is the question, basically. And I went with Wax Fang's The Astronaut. I'm not sure who it was that turned me on to this. Somebody in the VC. It may have been Paul, Baraka P. Dub. But yeah, picked this up. Kind of I guess this is kind of like a post-rock kind of thing. Really good album, and it's very spacey. Question number 19. Show some VCLT or a gift. I went with Joe Jackson's Blaze of Glory. This is a gift from Logan, Murmur Than Hell. And he gave me this when we went digging back in January of 2022. And we did go digging again in January of 2023. That was fun to meet up again. So yeah, this was a piece of VCLT from 2022. And last but not least, an album from 1973 that makes it 50 years old. And I went with Gordon Lightfoot's Sundown from 1973. Of course, that killer title track, Sundown, as well as Carefree Highway is on here. Circle of Steel is on here. Yeah, great album by Gordon Lightfoot. And 1973 is a year on that one, so it turns 50 this year. So that does it for my Vinyl Tag 2023. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, if you haven't done one already, set up a camera, write down these questions, and I'll try to type them out in the comment or type them out in the show notes if you want to copy and paste them and answer these for yourself, and let me know and down below that you made a video, and I'll check it out. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, great night. Enjoy some great music. Have a great 2023, and we'll see you again real soon. Cheers.